So I know I don't usually cover Transformers anymore, but this guy's too cool to not do a video on.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome to my review of the Transformers Legacy Evolution Commander Class Armada Optimus Prime. Now this is this year's Commander Class figure, which is the second largest scale of Transformers we get. There's Titan Class, which are the really big, like 2-foot tall ones, and then Commander Class, which are the next step down, and then a step down from that is Leader Class. I don't usually review Transformers on the channel. I've made a whole video about why I don't, but I did do the HasLab Victory Saber. I did do a rundown video talking about every release in Transformers Legacy, and I will be doing one for Legacy Evolution. But if you want to see more Transformers videos in the meantime, share this video with your friends, leave a like, hit subscribe, all that good stuff, because if this does well, I'll do more Transformers videos. They just don't perform as well on the channel as I would like to. But go check out the other Transformers videos. Let me know if there's interest. But on that note, we are looking at Armada Optimus Prime because I have been super excited for this ever since it leaked. The idea of getting an Armada Optimus update is something I think a lot of us wanted, because the original toy, for those that may not know, was motorized in the legs. And we'll go over that. I'll kind of bring up some comparisons. I don't have the original toy here. It's in storage because it just didn't work and I didn't keep it around as much. I love the packaging art. Looks really cool. On the side here, we've got some artwork of Optimus transforming. This is kind of reverse of his normal transformation state in the show. I will say, I don't know what the heck these panels are, because these look like the panels on the trailer, except they don't match correctly. And that doesn't come out of the cab, like the trailer just appears. But anyways, no big deal. On this side, you got kind of your standard Legacy Evolution artwork for the Autobot side of that artwork. And then on the back, you can see we got all the different modes, all the different features. We will do the base mode. It'll be the first time I've done it, because otherwise I don't really care about doing base modes. There's this QR code that goes somewhere, and then a nice little picture of the truck mode. But enough about the box, let's get into Prime himself. So he is packaged in truck mode, but he is left a little parts heavy here. This was just, I think, to make the box a bit slimmer. This piece here, I think it actually comes folded like this. This is the part you need to attach to give him his trailer hitch and stuff. It's not necessarily like a super secure connection, but you need to pull these blue chunks out, just lift up, pull out like this. Then we're going to come around here and plug this in upside down, and we're going to slide it between and latch it into there like that, and then bring that around, and then you're going to bring this all the way down because there's these blue slots here, and then you just tab that in, tab that in. I like to fold those down, and then that way you have your trailer hitch, so that goes onto Prime's cab mode, just slots in there, and then the gun slots in on top. So there is the truck mode. What's really cool about this is that I feel like, you know, this is not necessarily as large as the original Armada Optimus toy, but it has that same kind of feel to it. Like, it proportionately feels pretty good. It's not like the trailer's super small. It's not like the cab is you know, super big. It has kind of the same rough proportions of the original toy, which I think is great. But of course, this is a more modern interpretation. Like I mentioned, the original toy had a lot of complicated motorized features, specifically with the trailer. In general, motorized features wear out on toys, and so I'm really glad to see they didn't try to replicate any of that with this new update. In general, the truck cab here, I think it's cool. I like the clear windshield, though it's a question I keep asking with a lot of Transformers: why do we keep doing clear windshields when there's nothing to see inside? Because all you see is just like blocks of stuff. There's no interior cockpit design. On the original toy, you needed the clear window for the IR sensor for the motorized gimmick, but here I don't really see a point to it. On its own, though, it looks pretty nice. You can see the fists here, but these are what we call canonical kibble. You see him in that form in the show, on the back of his legs and stuff, so we can't really complain about the kibble there. We can complain about me mistransforming this. My apologies, his tires should be there. But anyways, you can see the actual hands, which again is fine. On the bottom, you can kind of see the makings of a robot. Armada Prime is not a design that anybody goes, wow, he's so complex and so detailed, except I'm forgetting a lot of little tricks here. Anyways, you get the idea. You get a nice little Autobot symbol there, nice silver painted grille. But then once you attach the trailer, he actually has pinned tires, as opposed to like the plastic hubcappy tires that a lot of deluxes get. So he rolls really, really nice. And then the trailer is freewheeling, though it's not gonna, you know, come up with him. It's not like a peg system, which also means if you're driving your truck he turns pretty nice back and forth, which is cool to see. Plus there is 2 wheels here on the bottom, so even though these look like, you know, tire treads, there is these 2 little wheels to keep it rolling. Now if you want Prime separate from his trailer, there is these 2 little spots here and here that fold down, and that levels out his trailer. And speaking of Prime being separate from his trailer, you can just have this. And I'm hoping we get a Nemesis Prime of this, because I don't think we ever saw Nemesis Prime with the full trailer and super mode. So maybe a generation selected just this will be in the future. Lastly, on the actual size of this, here is the Legacy Evolution Deluxe Hotshot from Armada. So you can see they are what looks like a good car scale to truck scale in general. I do think it looks nice, but I think it's time to get the truck cab transformed. So when the original toy, you would transform the truck cab and then you would have the trailer automatically fold into a base mode. It's all manual here. And I'm glad for that, because the original transformation was cool. The Optimus is pretty simple. They added some extra panels on this one to make it a little bit fancier. In general, I did not really like the motorized gimmick even as a kid, because I found it finicky, and half the time, if you didn't have like a huge amount of space to have the trailer transform in, you wouldn't be able to necessarily work your way through it. And so I in general prefer this manual function to it. And also I do recommend, as you saw, opening the side skirt and the back skirt before splitting the legs. Otherwise you could end up splitting the entire torso for the super mode. But I like that this transformation for Prime, it isn't overly complicated. They sort of simplified it a bit, but they did add some little details. Like you have to pull these apart up front, so that way you can pull this chest piece down. But in general, I think that this kind of gives me the same reminiscent feel of how the original transformation worked, while also updating it in the ways it needed to be updated, because this guy has much better articulation than even the original Deluxe Armada Prime, whose whole thing was articulation. And there he is. There is Optimus. So it's a pretty basic transformation, and I don't think that's any knock on the Commander class, because I think this had to be in order to give us the most accurate look of this Optimus. He uses, you know, it's the exact same transformation the original toy had. It's just updated. Things like having the panels close up here and like the wheels rotate. That is the kind of like little details. And because of this, he does have his ankle joints. He's got his knees, which are ratcheted, which is really nice. Hips that move out, and 360, because they made sure this guy's side skirts moved. He's got a thigh swivel, which is pretty good. He has no waist, because he does split up the middle for the combination. Shoulders, they rotate 360. They also rotate out. Bicep swivel, a double jointed elbow even, and then he's got a wrist swivel, which is a transformation joint, but it works pretty good. He also has a ball joint neck, which is pretty nice. In general, I think proportionately, he looks really solid as an Optimus Prime for Armada, and particularly if you look at his head, I think they made it more animation accurate than the previous attempts did. He definitely looks more on model, as on model you can get with Armada, which was one of those shows that had model problems. Also, what's a cool feature is you can open up the chest. As here you can see there's a little like spark chamber, but if you pop the front part of the chest, so I just noticed a broken nail, you can actually see the Matrix of Leadership. And on the original toy, it was an actual molded in piece. Here it is separate. He can't hold it. This is a common problem with Matrix of Leadership toys in the Generation line, or in Transformers in general. You can't actually have them hold it, but it does come out. It does have a clear plastic little jewel crystal thing that catches the light pretty nice. And I think that's a kind of a neat feature, to take a molded detail and make it into a non-molded detail. Now before we get the trailer put into base mode, I think it's good time to do some size comparisons with the Optimus base robot and other Optimus Primes. Alright, so first things first, here's G1 Optimus Prime from the Earthrise / Kingdom Leader class release, where you can see they're about the same height. He definitely is chunkier. They are around the same height, and then here is the Commander class Rodimus Prime. So you can see they all stand about the same height, which I think is kind of interesting, because if you wanted to have like a Leaders of the Autobots display and just use the base mode Prime, not the super mode, kind of works together pretty good there. Another comparison, of course, here is the Siege Sideswipe mold. I know it's the Back to the Future collaboration, but it's the same height. This is like your average deluxe size, so you can kind of see how he works with that. And then of course we need to have him with Deluxe Hotshot as well as Voyager Legacy Starscream. So these are the 3 Armada figures I have so far. I haven't gotten Megatron yet. I plan to. But Megatron is a leader class. I imagine he'll be a bit bigger. Here is kind of your rough scale for the Armada line in Legacy so far. And I think all these look terrific in robot mode especially. But yeah, you can see he's, a bit bigger than, almost called him Bumblebee, a bit bigger than Hotshot, and a little bit taller than Starscream. So I think it's a pretty good scale overall. All right, so here is the base mode. Like I said, the original toy would kind of fold out into a base mode. This one is a lot of flip around, do a lot of stuff. It's an approximation. It's got this gun tower sort of set up, which the original base mode had. However, the original base mode was like more of a center tower, and the idea was that it was a playset for minicons. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is that he does not come with Sparkplug, his minicon. None of the Armada Legacy stuff does. They all are missing their minicons, and I kind of hope that there's like a minicon pack in the future to make up for that. Because I know, Transformers budgets and stuff, that's a whole discussion for a different video. It is kind of a bummer he doesn't come with Sparkplug, but, nobody comes with their minicons, so it's not an Armada Optimus specific problem. So having a playset base mode for that doesn't really serve a purpose. This is more so, it's a thing it does in the show, it's a thing it does in the toy. We're way more concerned with making the super mode good as opposed to making the base mode anywhere decent. It looks too small for Prime. Like, he can stand here, but like, what's the point? In general, I just think it's not great. But then again, that's my opinion of most base modes. I really don't care for these things. I never display them like this. And this is probably the last time it's ever going into base mode. It doesn't have a gear system that can break those, so that's a positive over the original. But as a base, I think the original toy wins in the base mode configuration. Now, let's get this thing into super mode. What I'm gonna do actually is switch this back to its trailer mode because it's way easier to go from that to super mode. So before we go to the super mode, I did forget to mention a feature with the gun. So his blaster can fit in his hand in his regular mode too, not just the super mode. And I think it's always looked like, all right, that's a big gun, but it's not that bad. And this is a thing in the show. I almost moved on without mentioning this. And then the other cool part is you can actually take the smokestacks off his arms, which those act as blasters in the series. You can have him hold them as blasters, except it doesn't clear enough through his hand. Like, you have to turn his hand if you want him to use it as a blaster, because this lip just gets in the way. But more specifically, and this is how it was packed, and I did forget this until I was thinking about it, you actually can plug them on the end of the barrel here, and then boom, now he's got like a 5-barreled gun. And you also may notice how this leg shifted. If this panel isn't clicked into place just exactly right, it can happen kind of easily. But there you go. So if you want Prime with a big old gun with some extra barrels on it, it's cool, it's doable, it's fun. But we're now in the business of getting this guy into super mode. So like I mentioned, the original toy, which is funny because even the original commercial doesn't show the actual trailer turning into the legs, because it has to kind of like, it has to go from this, fold all the way out, and then stand itself up. Kind of a mess. But in general, much better here. So first things first, we're going to take a look at Prime, and from Prime, we'll be able to transform into super mode. All right, so transforming Optimus into super mode, it's going to be a combination of him with the trailer. And this works a little different than how it did on the original toy. The original toy, you practically just turned him into a truck cab and then you folded some stuff down and you were done. This is a little bit different. So what's really cool is it has the same vibe, but it's actually, I think, a lot different. So I'm going to kind of walk through this. So first of all, you want to lift the grill and leave it sticking out. I know it seems weird now, but it'll make sense in a moment. Then you want to come around here and you want to split up the middle of the torso. Now, the original toy, it just pulled straight out. With this, you want to lift this up, keep the arms out, but lift the red parts up like that. And then this is going to rotate out. This is how you reveal the super mode head is right there. So we're going to bring the hips out, which are now the shoulders, bring out the super mode head. Also of note, when you're putting it back, there is 2 slots for his 2 ears to go into. Then you want to come around here. We're going to take the arms, position them like this, and whoops, kick the camera. Then we've got that lined up, and then this will peg right back in to the gray piece, and that'll hold everything together. I think it's a pretty smart peg and tab system to keep everything in line. And then we're going to bring this down. We're going to close up that skirt so it keeps the shoulder intact. Bring it forward. You then want to take this panel out. You want to rotate, actually you want to rotate the foot in, rotate it around. Bring the peg down. Those 2 slots in the hand will go through those 2 holes, and then fold the foot back over so that way you have free clearance of the hand. And then you want to, of course, leave the wheels where they are. So I think it's a pretty cool system. It's pretty ingenious to have these folding panels, as I think that is the best way to do it. But as you see, if you want to have the foot folded down, it's not going to go through. So you got to fold it up, bring it around, peg it down, come around, fold it back up again. So there we go. There is most of the super mode. We'll get his little wing head things out soon. You want to make sure that the actual red piece is lined up between those two gray pieces. So there is the torso, the upper torso for the super mode. So now we go over here. We're going to pull the gun straight off. You want to leave these sticking out. If you don't have them flipped out already, you need to have them flipped out. We're going to split the trailer like this and like this, and then you want to just split it straight out like that. This will drop off most times. Just leave it aside if it does. Unpeg that, unpeg that, unpeg that, unpeg that, and then that way we get the hips kind of freestanding. Fold these out. Now, this is where it gets tricky. You want to bring this up and around, up like that. Fold this, or rotate this 100 degrees. I'm saying just words now, aren't I? Bring the legs down, so you start to see the legs. And this is why I said you need to leave these out, because if you leave these in and then move the legs over, you won't have a faux missile design, because this used to be missiles in his legs. So you want to fold this up so that when you bring this down, this goes over that area. So you can see that area has like some sculpted detail, but you want to cover it to give it that look that the leg missiles originally had. And then bring the foot out, and bring that out, and you're going to have a nice little ankle pivot. So this is pretty good. I think this is a much, much, much better way to do the super mode. Of course, the original toy was part of a very gimmicky era, and that needed to have like a fancy gimmick. So it was the big fancy toy, but I think the motorized thing has not worked out for anybody overall. Now tell me if you do prefer the motorized gimmick to this, because I would be very curious to hear why. So we're also gonna, with this piece, you're gonna bring it around, fold these down, get this pegged in. There's these two holes. It's weird because you have these two slots are gonna go in these two hexagonal holes. Bring that around. So he's got kind of a bit of a skirt on the back. Then up top, where we actually have the super mode connection, you want to bring this red part forward, bring this forward. Then we're going to bring this back. And now this is the big deviation. On the old toy, you just slam him down, he's done. This one went for a sturdier connection. And this is something to be very, very careful with, because you got to line this up just directly in so you don't scratch any of that silver paint. There is a gray slot. It's going to go between the panels of the actual grill. This is, I guess, the best way to do it is to kind of put it in first and then pull it back a little bit to line it up, and it'll go straight in. And then you bring this red part down. There's two gray slots in the shoulders, red tabs. And then you can just bring this down, slam it down, plug it in, good to go. Fold out his ears, and there is Optimus in super mode. So as someone that played with the original toys since he was a kid, this is 110,000 times better. And it's simply because of the legs. I think that Optimus, the original Armada Optimus, is a good toy when you like attach Jetfire as his legs. It's one of his other combination options. But as the original trailer, it was just a brick. Everything from the waist down was just a solid, flat panels of plastic. It was really disproportionate. This is just so much better. This is living the dream. It is by no means perfect. Like I said, there is no spark plug Minicon. There are no Minicon ports, even though there are 5mm ports up here if you had like a adapter to plug a Minicon onto. The fact that this guy now has fully moving hips, thigh swivels, knee bends, and most specifically ankle pivots means he's a fully featured transformer. He's not a giant gimmick toy. And then adding to that, the shoulders rotate 360, they move out, they bicep swivel, they bicep elbow, and then you have a wrist swivel and an opening hand hinge, which is pretty cool. And then on top of that, ball jointed neck. I love the way the head turned out. However, he does have yellow eyes. I believe he's supposed to have red eyes. This is just something that happened. It is pretty easy because there is just a screw in the back of his head. You can unscrew it and just go paint the eyes if you like. I don't mind it that much. I think the yellow has a little bit more cohesion to it. The Autobot logo here is also interesting because you can actually pull it off. There's actually, it's not like, you know, we're doing this for the sake of doing it. There actually is little spots on the side. You can pull that off and it reveals a 5mm port. So yeah, you could put the gun on like the truck mode, or maybe this is for Jetfire's shield as part of the Jetfire combination. And then all the way around the back, there is a port here which actually fits the original Armada Overload. so you can actually have him have the giant shoulder cannons that Overload had. So it does seem like it's future-proofed in case they want to do Jetfire and Overload in the future and give us like the super duper Optimus Prime. The other thing I will say is that with the Jetfire, you know, obviously you want this back skirt, but Jetfire is going to have some replacement for the back of this, because without this in place, this does not hold enough connection just on the waist connection. So I'd be interested to see how they would tackle a Legacy Armada Jetfire. In general, though, I'm really happy with this. This is just phenomenal. If I had one minor nitpick, it'd say he's got the 5mm port, of course, to hold the blaster, which looks more proportional now. But you notice when you open the hand, you still have that port there. The first Commander class figure we ever got was Jetfire in Siege, and he had this cool system where he had a 5mm port in his hand, and then when you open the hand, the port would disappear. And I'm a little bummed out that that is not the case here, because, well, it doesn't really take any more space, it just takes more engineering budget. But that just says a lot about Transformers pricing and budgeting than it does the actual design of Prime. But overall, I mean, how can you go wrong with this? If you are somebody that either grew up on Armada or like the Armada designs, they're very anime inspired, which I think is cool. And in general, Armada did have more G1 callbacks with characters like Optimus Prime design-wise. This is just the best you can do with the super mode. I don't think really anyone could do better outside of like a third party with an unlimited budget kind of thing. In terms of a mass retail official Transformers product, again, it would be nice to get Sparkplug, but we can always get that later on as an actual like add-on pack. I kind of wish Micromasters weren't dead, because it would have been a great way to do mini-cons as well. But in general, just having an Armada Optimus that transforms and poses and looks this good, it's a dream come true. This is like 20 years in the making. We finally got an Armada Prime in super mode that can transform and have his legs be posable. It took us a long time to get here, and it's just really cool we finally got it. So I've got Optimus leveled out, got the camera leveled out. Let's do a size comparison, of course, with Legacy Starscream and Legacy Evolution Hotshot. As you can see, it looks right. Super mode Optimus is supposed to be massive, and it looks pretty good next to these two. It's really cool getting these screen-accurate Armada figures. It's just a bummer we don't have their mini-cons, but in general, they just look really, really nice. We'll once again bring in the Earthrise Kingdom Optimus and the Commander class Rodimus, because they were about the same height as the base Optimus. So if you're wondering what the size difference is between them, there's a good measure of that. Here's Gigawatt once again representing the average size of a Deluxe class Transformer, so you can see how big he is compared to the normal Deluxe. And here he is next to the Titans Return Leader class Power Master Optimus Prime, which I feel desperately needs an update. And then the HasLab Victory Saber. So you can kind of see that even with Victory Saber having his like leg extensions being Victory Saber, not Star Saber, he's pretty big. Like, he is pretty large because he's towering over an old leader class, and he's just a little bit shorter than the HasLab for Victory Saber. Then lastly, here he is next to last year's Commander class Motormaster. Now this, of course, is the Minosaur combination. He would look a lot more stripped down if I took all the Stunticons off of him. But you can see that, you know, this was kind of a wiry skeletal super mode. This is a more filled out, more beefy super mode. Plus, I wouldn't want him to be as big as Minosaur because of the size scaling of the respective franchise. Like I said, he looked good next to Hotshot and Starscream. In general, I really love Commander class as being this larger, not quite Titan, but definitely bigger than Leader class. They're always feeling like they're worth the value. Not you. You're not in this. The overall just size and scaling of Commander class is just great. I think that having Armada Prime as big as Jetfire, or as big as Minosaur, or even as big as Skylynx would be weird for the character. So I'm fine with him being technically the smallest of the actual commanders. Of course, the smallest commander is this guy, because he came with a trailer that he doesn't even combine with. And while I think this is a great Rodimus, I think he was massively overpriced at the commander price tag. But in general, I just really do love Commander class, and I look forward to seeing what the Studio Series Commander class will be and how that will turn out, because, well, I really like this new scale that they've added in recent years. It really gives us an opportunity to get characters that don't fit in Leader, but don't need to be Titan either. So overall, Legacy Evolution Armada Optimus Prime is probably my favorite Legacy figure of the year. I've been really anticipating this, and he did not disappoint me. There are things, of course, that are drawbacks. The hands not having the hideaway ports, that's a minor thing. But I do think missing out on his Minicon, or at least having a port so you could use the original Minicon, is a bit of a bummer. And in general, the base mode is super lackluster. I do think that overall the price point of Commander is worth it for this guy because of the iconicism of the character, as well as the fact that this is 100 times better than the original toy, even missing those Minicon features. It's just a way better figure because he has real legs. It really pulls it all together. So I'm really happy with how he turned out, and I'm happy I got him at release as opposed to waiting for a sale. You can, of course, wait for a sale. That is a great way to budget toys nowadays because it does seem like everything is not meeting demand and going on sale, but that is a slippery slope where if you want it and it doesn't go on sale and you're waiting for a sale, you might miss out. So if you want to get Armada Prime, I do think he is worth his US retail price. That's what I paid for him, but mileage will vary on all of you, and I hope that you have been able to make a decision or take a look at a figure that you weren't planning to pick up through this video. And in general, that's pretty much all I can say about Armada Optimus Prime. We'll do a cool comparison with Megatron in the Legacy Evolution rundown at the start of next year, and I look forward to having all those together. But if you do want to see more Transformers videos, let me know in the comments down below, because I do love Transformers, I just don't make videos on them as much because the videos don't do as well as some other franchises. And for that fact, share this video around and see if we can get the like counter up a little bit, the view count up a little bit, and maybe I'll be doing some more Transformers videos in the future. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on a future upload, Transformers or otherwise. Also, don't miss my live streams Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern on this YouTube channel, where I talk about Transformers news quite frequently, so you don't want to miss out. You can also watch the archives of those streams if you can't catch them live. Also, be sure to check out my social media at Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Soundout12, as long as those are still applicable. You can find my graphic designer on Twitter at DarkCloud643. You can find Hero Club at hero-club.com for geek news and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying goodbye.